Hello, hello. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. It's so wonderful to see all of you. Well, I can't see you, but it's so wonderful that you're all coming on. It's so fun when I get to see on the bottom of the screen how many people are here. I want to welcome you. It is so wonderful to see you all. All right. So let us get started. My name, of course, is Dara Thomason. I am the life coach for quilters. It is so wonderful to see all of you here. I want to invite you to participate in this webinar by having a pen and paper. So if there are things that I'm telling you, things that I'm showing you that resonate, write them down. I also want to encourage you to make this interactive. So on the bottom of the screen, there is a little chat feature. And that chat feature is like a little speech bubble, and you can write comments in there. So I welcome you to do that as we move on with our training today. So I'm going to just start by introducing the topic. Now, this is a big deal because so many of us, myself included, have been, and I hear this a lot from my clients. They talk about how we've been sold a bill of goods. That's it's so fun because I hear that on a regular basis from clients. Now, this can range from, and so the way I had the title of this one was how you can be happy no matter what the number on the scale is. How you can be happy with whatever size of house you have. How you can be happy with whatever size of pants you wear. How you can be happy with however size of stash you have. Okay, how you can be happy with however many accomplishments, like ribbons, whatever it is. Those actually aren't the things that create your happiness. And so the problem is we don't feel happy. And we aren't because we don't feel like we are as thin as we want, or we are accomplished as we want. We're not as productive as we want. Think about how we are in our sewing area. Are we getting all those blocks of the month done on time? Are we able to show off all these things? Do we have picture worthy, magazine worthy sewing areas? Like all of those things. So we don't think that we can feel happy because we're not as thin as we want. We're not as accomplished as we want. We're not as productive as we want. We're not as talented as the next girl. We're not as, picture perfect in our studio or our sewing room or our house or our yard or any of those things. And we feel like we can't be happy because we're not as together as we would like. Now, I want you to ask yourself, how often do you say, by this age, I should have had this figured out by now? I thought I would have it all figured out, right? Like, I really want you to think of where are your thoughts and where do they fall into this place, okay? Now, the problem is, this is a target. I'm curious for you is how often have you sat down and said, I'll be happy when? Have you actually done that? Have you said, I'll be happy when I have this kind of house, but like you've written this down? Have you done that? So super, even like with number of kids, your husband, like if your marital status, your employment status, like even like what your kids are doing now, are they meeting the grade? Like all of those things. I really want you to get super curious. For those of you who don't know me yet, one of the things I always say is we need to get super curious like a 3-year-old. When's the last time you hung out with a 3-year-old? Yeah, they're constantly saying, why is that like that? Why are we doing this? Where are we going? what's happening? Why is the sky blue? Like they're just constantly doing that. And I think when we can get curious like a 3-year-old, we can then figure out what's really going on. Okay. So why do we have this problem? Because we are pretty smart. And like we're all, I can say this with for surety, because you're all super smart. You were able to see a webinar that you thought that sounds interesting. You're able to go on the computer, figure out how to register for it. That's pretty smart. Then you were able to come at the exact time that the webinar was happening. And for those of you who aren't live watching it, those who will be watching it on replays and on YouTube or on my email list, see how smart you are? You figured out, here's a life coach for quilters. She has a problem. She's going to teach me why or help me see why I have this problem. And you're sitting here watching this. You're very smart. I know you're all very smart. Okay. You all were able to do that one thing. Okay. So this is us. Now, so this is why we have this problem, okay? So we all have unique qualities. We all have different talents. And some of us are developing our talents all the time. We all come from different backgrounds. We also have all different cultures. So not only do we have where we, like our upbringing, like the kinds of parents we had, but we had like socioeconomic status. So people who were raised by one parent versus two parents, even like if you were raised near family where you had family all the time, that makes a difference. Even if you ate dinner, there's all these studies about families that eat dinner together without a TV on and sit at the table. That makes a huge impact on the success. Like there are so many different variables and we're all super unique. Okay. Now the world, this is the world. I know. It says, these are the things that should make you happy. Okay. So what are the things that the world says we should do to be happy? And you can put those in the chat. Okay, I'm not going to turn the page yet. I like it to be interactive, okay? Because so my background was I was an elementary school teacher for 10 years. I have 5 children, ages 18 to 9. And so I have the teacher background. And then I started teaching I became a professional quilter and I taught free motion quilting. And so I love teaching and I love this interacting idea. And I know how the brain works because I'm a life coach. I'm a certified life coach. And so I have lots of skills and abilities to help you. And one of the things that can help you is to be interactive in your learning. So I encourage you to be interactive in this sphere. I also know that we're all unique. And so not all of us are as interactive as others, and that's okay. So some of the things the world tells us, right, to be thin, to be beautiful, and to be young. Okay, so even there is so interesting because how do you qualify thin? What does thin look like? So for someone who comes from like a Polynesian island versus who is like, 5'4" to someone from Canada versus I'm 6 feet tall. And I met a lady at Quilt Market actually back in October of 2019. And she was probably 6'2". And I went up to her and I said, "Oh, it's really fun to look up to somebody. I don't do that very often." And she was I think she was from Austria or Sweden. I can't remember. But she says, she's like, "I'm average, you're short." I have never had anyone call me being 6 feet tall that I'm average. Sorry, that I'm short. I've never had anyone tell me that. So it's so interesting because being beautiful, what are the qualifications to be beautiful? And what are the qualifications being young? So it's so interesting. So when I had the picture of the target, It's very interesting because we don't even know what that even looks like. And it was interesting because a couple of days ago, I was teaching a class and I was talking about overweight. And overweight, what does that even mean? Okay. So interesting. So being thin, okay, what does thin mean? What does that even look like? What are the criteria? Beautiful. How do you, what is the criteria for beautiful? You have to have symmetrical eyes. You have to have like whatever that is. So interesting. Okay. So as we think about this, so we have this problem of you can't be happy unless you you have these criteria. So that's what the world is saying. Because even in this program that I teach you, I teach my clients that in order for us to change, we have to accept ourselves exactly the way we are. And the other thing I say is you can be perfectly happy and totally complete being whatever, the internet says your BMI is. You can be happy being over the recommended BMI. And in fact, until you learn to be happy with who you are and what you're like, the size of house and car and body, all of that, until you can accept it and be like totally at peace with it, you're not going to be able to create change. Okay. It's not going to happen, or it will happen for a little bit, right? That yo-yo dieting thing, but it's not going to last. Okay. So that's really important. So we have this problem saying you can't be happy unless, and then why that exists. And so it exists because, and this is getting I did a lot of research. Okay. So I did some fun Google searching and fun articles that I read about advertising. And we all kind of know this, but I think it's always fun to show some research on things. So advertisements make us associate happiness with consumerism. So what they do is they say, or they're going to break down our self-esteem. Now, I want you to imagine self-esteem is like so we have a bucket, and all the thoughts we have about ourselves, that's actually what our self-esteem is. So, we talked a lot about self-esteem, especially in like, what was it, the 80s and 90s, like when I was a school teacher. So I started teaching in the mid 90s to, mid 2000s. And it was all about self-esteem. We don't want to ruin their self-esteem, but we kind of got it mixed up a little bit. Our self-esteem is literally just all the thoughts we have about ourselves. So even to build our self-esteem is we need to give children and adults challenges for them to overcome. So one of the problems we saw in the education system, and we see even in the culture today, I'm talking Canadian American culture, is that they wanted to protect these kids and not give them anything that was too difficult. But what we've been seeing is we have this thing called failure to thrive. So the problem was these kids never really learned how to solve problems for themselves. So now we have these 20-somethings, 30-somethings that are still living at home and not really living their full potential because they never had the skill set to solve their own problems and to get that kind of confidence that comes from solving problems. Okay, who can relate to this as you see it? I'm not sure if you see this in yourself or in your grandkids, your own children. And there's no judgment on this because really we thought we were doing them a service. We thought, and part of it was good. Like it was good not to fail a kid from school. So, I mean, that was my experience, right? As a school teacher. But there were some really challenging deficits that came because we didn't give them the opportunity to grow. All right, that was just kind of a aside. So the advertisements advertisers, they want you to deplete your own self-esteem. They don't want you to have that kind of, I can do this, all of those really positive thoughts, because they want you to believe. So they create a new problem for you. The problem is you can't be happy unless you have external things. And this is right from many, many researchers. And so they, so they fool us into thinking that that only products and services can make us feel better. So in other words, advertisements create a problem, then offer us a solution for it. So this is super interesting. So they say, for example, you aren't pretty, which, by the way, how do we know what pretty is? Like, we just decide, right? Like, I think this necklace is pretty. You might not think it's pretty. I think this little jacket that I'm wearing is really fun. You might not think so. You might be like, wow, that kind of bugs my eyes a little, right? And you're like, I would never wear a necklace like that. It's all in our opinion. But advertisements, they only show one kind of picture, one kind of look, and they say, so if you're not pretty, you need to buy makeup. You need to wear a lot of makeup. And oh yeah, don't forget the eyelashes. And oh, you've definitely got to lose weight. You've got to be a certain size, or else other than that, it's not acceptable. And your hair, oh goodness, you've really got to do a thing for your hair. And clothes. And not only clothes, but you need to have a specific name brand of clothes, because then that will mean that you can draw attention. So if you can't do your face, and if you haven't been blessed with those kinds of things and like that nose, then maybe if you had the clothes or shoes or accessories, those things will help you. They'll kind of help balance out if you're not pretty enough. You hear like I'm really am lacing like kind of the sarcasm there, but this is what we've been sold. And it's super interesting, because even I think about myself right now. I mean, I did my hair. I spent time with my hair. I spent time thinking about my outfit and personal grooming. So there's nothing wrong with the personal grooming. There's nothing wrong with me wanting to look nice and professional for you. But the problem is, it's the thought behind it of, if I don't look a certain way, if I don't present myself a certain way, then I can't be acceptable. Rather than, I really think it's fun. I have this beautiful body and I appreciate my body. My body does so many things. It breathes, it eats, it drinks, it like does all this thing of like oxygen exchange, and it's always beating. The heart is beating all the time. And my body gives me so much energy to do all these things, that I can meet with these amazing women. And so one of the ways that I like to take care of my body is to wear some nice things and to spend a little bit of time in my hair. And all the thoughts I have about myself have now changed, because I can present myself and so do you hear what I'm saying? Like, this is my motive and my objective to looking this way is very different than what advertisers want me to believe. Advertisers want us all to believe that in order for you to be acceptable, in order for you to be happy, you need to do these things. And if you don't do these things and you don't keep it up, you won't be happy. It's not possible. They're basically teaching us we are not able to be independently happy. We are dependent on them in order to feel happy. Okay. So now what happens if you're like, well, I'm too old now, or that ship has sailed. I never will be able to be this way. So then they're like, don't worry. There's other ways you can try to be happy. You can, we can work on your house. You gotta, definitely have to have a certain kind of house. And maybe you buy a long arm, which, by the way, there's nothing wrong with buying a long arm. My brand new one comes on Monday, right? And stash. These are shelves. Awesome. Right? So they are now saying this is how you can create happiness. Because if you have so many wrinkles and like all the creams in the world can't do it, maybe we could focus our energy here. Do you hear how detrimental this is? Do you hear how out of your own power that it takes you. Okay. So why doesn't money, so now I'm going to bring it to weight loss. Okay. And how does that apply to us? So why doesn't money on beauty or weight loss, which by the way, I just did that. So I'm always thinking like, how much is it? So I did some research. It's $422.8 billion spent a year. And that was of 2020 on weight loss. Okay. So why doesn't money spent on beauty, money spent on weight loss, or money spent on even fabric, why doesn't that work? Okay, so that's you. And we want to be happy, right? But let's just take diets, for example. So a diet says, do this stuff. If you do this, you eat this, you do all these things, you're going to lose weight. Okay. So I don't doubt that that's going to work. I mean, pretty much all diets do work for a certain amount of time. But I mean, even going back to the definition of diet is a prescribed food plan for a limited time. So even in the definition, it's meant for us to do it for a short period of time. It's not meant to be sustainable because they want to keep making money. Okay. It's fine, right? We're free enterprise. It's fine. You can make money. I make money. It's not a problem. But what the difference between the way I teach weight loss and the way they teach weight loss is you're going to see it in just a moment. So they say, do this, do that, do this, do that. So what that's doing is it's saying, you can't trust yourself. You're not to be trusted. You're not smart enough. You're not competent enough. You don't know enough. Okay. It also says that what you have to listen to other people because what you think isn't as important. Okay. And then it's saying so you listen to other people. So you're not important. You're not to be trusted. You don't learn to listen to yourself. And then, so you never gain the skill of taking care of you. So I have a business coach, and yesterday she was talking about something. Oh, she's talking about our businesses. That's what she was talking about. And she said, we're all like brand new moms with babies. Now, can you relate to this? So we're all brand new moms with brand new babies, and we have never done that before. But we have some instincts, right? We have some wiring, and we can go for, ask people for support or guidance. But ultimately, it's up to us to decide how we're going to take care of our baby. And so I love this about our bodies. And so, and I don't know if all of you have had brand new babies or if you've nieces or nephews or whatever. But I remember delivering my first baby thinking, I really don't actually know what I'm doing. I mean, I've babysat a ton and I've done lots of diaper changes for other people, but I'd never had that kind of responsibility. But as I just worked on it, I realized I can trust myself. I can trust my instincts. I'm always learning. It's not a problem, right? And I had 5 babies. And and they were always evolving and changing, and so was I, and it was a wonderful thing. It's a beautiful thing, okay? So what would it be like for you to think about your relationship with food and your body like you were like a brand new mom? You're like, I'm just doing this for the first time. It's not a problem. But if you were constantly reading the books all the time and always listening to other people and never learning the skill of listening to you, you couldn't be an independent mother. You wouldn't be able to take care of that baby, would you? They'd take that baby away probably. Okay. So what has ultimately been created? Okay. So what's happened is ads teach us to associate happiness with money. Now, before I go on here, I want you to think about the last time you felt just joy. Just felt so nice. I want you to just think about that. I want to share just a quick little experience before I go more into this. So one day it was a snowy day. This is before we moved here to the island where we don't have snow very often. And my son, who was probably, he was about 6, and he really wanted to get the mail. And so we have those communal mailboxes. So I said, okay. So I sat in the car, I gave him the key. I was within 5 or 6 feet from him. And he's trying to walk on the sidewalk and it's a little bit slippery. And then he's like, is this the right one? And I'm like, yeah, that's the right one. And everyone else is in the car and we're just all kind of watching him. And then he tries to do the key and he finally figures it out. And he's so excited. He goes and he gets all the mail. And I remember just sitting in the car and just feeling so much love for this little boy and just so much happiness for him that, oh, that's so fun that you could be in a dance class. How good for you. And just thinking what a joy that it's like all these firsts. And he just his independence, and he was so proud of himself. That is real joy. That is real happiness. And it had nothing to do with money. It had nothing to do with buying anything. Okay. So I want to invite you all just to think about maybe an experience similar to that, where maybe even you got all the seams, and they all just came together so nicely. You didn't have to square up too many things in a quilt or whatever that is, or when you gave a quilt, or just having a conversation with someone and just feeling just so at ease. I want you just to reflect on that, because it's going to be such a contrast to this. So when we think about, advertisers, they break down our self-esteem. So think about our self-esteem is literally just all the thoughts we have about ourselves. Like, I'm capable, I'm competent, I can do hard things, I'm really talented, all of that. I always pay my bills on time. All of those thoughts, those all contribute to our self-esteem, the way we think about ourselves. And so they fool us into thinking that only products and services bring us happiness. So like I said before, they create a problem and then they are our only solution. Now, one of the problems with this, so this is us here, and they're saying the only way that you can be happy, oh, by the way, you have to wear a certain size of pants. Your shirt has to be a certain size. Oh, and you can only weigh a certain amount. And you have to have a certain kind of house. And you definitely have to take your kids or yourself on certain vacations. You actually can't be happy just being at home by yourself. No way. You need to spend at least $10,000 on vacations. And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with going on vacations. And I'm definitely not saying there's anything wrong with houses, right? That's not what I'm saying. But when the world is selling us a bill of goods saying the only way you can be happy is if you have these things, that's the problem. You're buying into what they're saying. And so there's two things. And as you've been listening to me and understand this more, there's kind of two different brain spirals that we go down. One is shame. And that's some version of I'm not good enough. Okay. I'm not good enough. And so when you have this thought, I'm not good enough, and something like this happens, like you're a size 14 and everyone is saying you have to be a size 6 or a size 0, you're like, I guess I'm not good enough. Yeah, I guess that's right. Or if you have a bungalow on a busy street that's might need a paint job in the next year, I guess, yeah, that's right. I'm not good enough. And I never see those advertisements. I never see advertisements with cars lined with streets lined with cars because they have so many rental properties on it. There's not one picket fence. Okay. I do not know why I'm yawning. This is so weird. Okay. So we've got this doubt ourselves with shame. So then the shame thing comes up, and then we have our file folder of all the times where we're like, yes, I am not good enough. Oh, I guess you're right. I am not good enough. So then that's the story that we're hearing. Okay. And then there's the blame. And because that feels terrible. You're like, well, I'm not good enough. It's like, well, maybe because I had a mother, or I had a father, or I wasn't born on the right side of the tracks, or I didn't come from an educated family, or I didn't have parents that pushed me hard enough, or I had parents that pushed me too hard. You hear how that goes? So then you start going out of your own authority, right? Because you've been broken down of your self-esteem. Like, I guess I'm not that good. And I guess I'm not smart enough. And so then you go to blame. And so now, again, like I said, you don't, like I said here, you don't give yourself the opportunity to build a skill and to be that brand new mom and figure out those things. Okay. All right. So how does this relate to weight loss? I know, I was getting there. We got this. Okay. So this is you and your body. You have a beautiful body. Your body is amazing. Our bodies do crazy things. They have been trying to like produce robots that can do all the things. Like even our hand, there is no way that they can compare and even attempt to simulate what a hand can do. All the things. I even have no nerve in this finger, and I can still do amazing things with this hand. And I have my hand pulls in the back, and I have like numbness here and kind of going into this finger. I can still do amazing things. It's incredible, right? We have like legs that move, and we have digestion systems, and we have like, if we get a cut, we have all of a sudden these certain blood cells go and they heal it, and they do all sorts of things. And we're going to be actually talking about this a lot more in my Body Love pop-up group next week, which you all need to be in. It's going to be amazing. So so let's go back to this idea of this is our body. And then this is what the government, this is what advertisements say, this should be your ideal body. And, you know, we've all heard the studies about Barbie. If she really was, like, it wouldn't even be possible. I was talking to one of my clients who lives in a place where there's been a lot of tummy tucks. And she was saying how it was really interesting because tummies aren't supposed to be perfectly flat. Like they're supposed to have like some sort of roundness. Like that's just how we are. So I'm 6 feet tall and I wear size 6 pants, which is really fun. And, you know, we are supposed to have some form of roundness here. Okay. And if you don't, if you kind of distort the body, it doesn't look natural. It doesn't have its natural tendency. So it looks kind of odd. So the problem is you don't trust your body to know what's best. And we're going to talk about our wiring in a moment. But so advertisements condition us to not trust our ability to be happy on our own. Isn't that interesting? Have you ever thought of it that way before? So diets condition us to not trust our ability to trust our body. So when is the last time so now we've got a very conditional relationship. Very conditional. Like if you don't do this, then I'm not going to like you. Okay. Now, just talking about weight loss for a moment, I was doing some other research about this, and I was looking at on a website, a blog from a woman who specializes in binge eating, and her name is Julie DeRohan, and she cited some really interesting statistics, and I'm just going to share just a few of those just to kind of I want you to kind of see if you can relate to any of this. So weight loss is relentlessly reminding us that we don't measure up to the ideal. So it's always telling us, like fat shaming, that we're supposed to be a certain size. So imagine someone who, like, it's actually even just in my own family. So I'm 6 feet tall and I'm one of those bodies where I don't really have hips. I've never really had hips and until I had babies. But I'm pretty flat. Like I'm pretty flat here. I don't have a lot of curves. And I have a gorgeous, beautiful daughter who's 16, and she has beautiful curves. It's like amazing. I'm like, wow, you're so beautiful. Like she's so like Betty Boo, like Betty Boo is just like so pretty, so curvy. And it's a little bit challenging, especially I would say like a year ago, because yeah, just like over a year and a half ago, because that's when I was that size. And so we literally wear the same jeans. Her waist is thinner than my waist, but she has wider hips and I don't. So we have the same pants. And at first she was like, what is happening? My 47-year-old mom is wearing the same pants as she is. And there was some trouble there because she thought like, what is happening? Like my mom's had 5 kids and she's 6 feet tall and my daughter's like 5'6". But she has just such a different, beautiful body. And it's been really interesting for us to have these conversations. And then she has these really, really tall brothers, and the brothers all have red hair and she has brown hair and they all have blue eyes and she doesn't. Like, it's just super interesting to like, there's all sorts of factors that relate to that. But so thinking about that, so size and health are not the same. When we believe thinness is the most significant objective, that causes issues. So for someone who says like being really thin, someone like, so I have that kind of body. Like I don't have significant hips or bum or anything like that. And I don't really have much of a chest either. So if you think that the ideal body has a larger chest and a thinner waist and then some hips, I ain't got it, because I'm more like doop, doop, right? So it's such a moving target, because yes, I have some things that the ideal body has, but I don't I don't have all of it. So I could even with and I never had pretty hair before, but which is really fun that I have pretty hair now and I take some time. So I could have that component of it, and I could have the thinness of a waist component, and I have, size 6 pants component of it, and I have long legs component of it. But if I don't think that I don't have the same size of chest that Barbie would have. Okay, so then I could think like, I could do all the things I want to do, but I could never meet up. And you see how then I would just beat myself up for it. And I might even go to a plastic surgeon and say, could you augment these breasts for me? Because if I was buying into whatever magazine was popular that day, then I would go do that. I mean, think about it with tattoos even. Tattoos are so trendy. So yeah, like those, how the people used to do like the back tattoos. There's a certain name for that. That was like in a certain time, and now that's out of fashion. And so now they're doing other things, and then that's out of fashion, right? And so how can you keep up? You can't. Okay. So what I'm teaching you is to learn to like I'm going to get to that. There's 4 things that I'm going to teach you how to change your relationship. But just going back on the diet. So ads encourage people to be unhealthy extremes in order to lose weight. So they don't give you like, let's trust our bodies. Let's look at our bodies, which I'll be talking about. And the interesting thing was the World Health Organization has said for decades that yo-yo dieting and weight cycling are considerably worse for our health than staying at a consistent weight, even if that weight is higher than we would deem acceptable. Isn't that interesting? So you don't have to put up your hand. I mean, I guess you can. I can't see you anyway. But how many of you have been losing and gaining that same 40, 50, 100 pounds for the last 40 years? I know I was. Definitely I was. Okay. So dieting is the most important predictor of eating disorders. There was a study with between 14 and 15-year-olds who, those who dieted moderately were found to be 5 times more likely to developing an eating disorder. And I love what she said. Fad diets are largely ineffective with at least 95 failure rate. They're and I've read even up to 99. And at those of you who are my pop-up group, my 1% club, you saw that impact. They are also putting vulnerable people at risk of disorders that can severely impact their mental and emotional and physical health. And like I say, our culture, our society right now, we have never been at an all-time low for our mental health ever. And so much of it has to do with the way that we're thinking and letting our thoughts go I talk about our thoughts being like an unsupervised child in a candy store. So if we don't learn to supervise our thoughts, then we aren't able to get the results. Okay. So that really sets that stage of, so advertisements say you aren't good enough, something's wrong with you. So your self-esteem goes low, and they say, but guess what? If you buy this and this and this and this, then you can be happy. Which, by the way, those are false pleasures. So there is a difference between buying a house thinking that's going to solve all my problems to buying a house of like, I just love that house. I love where it is. I love location. That house is wonderful. But we're not buying the house in order to feel a certain way. Okay, so there's nothing wrong with wanting a nice, pretty house. And in fact, I don't know if you know this, but like I have a wonky kitchen, and I'm going to do something about that wonky kitchen because it isn't functional and it causes some irritation. I've been living with it for 4 years, and but I'm going to do something about it eventually. But I appreciate that kitchen. Okay, so good. All right, so what is the solution to all of this? We need to unconditionally love ourselves. Because you saw in this one here was everything was conditional. If I weigh this weight, then I can be happy. If I have this thing, so it's all an external thing creating an internal emotion. That's the problem, okay? And for all of you out there who are my clients, you know what that's called? Buffering. We're going to talk about that in a moment. So how do you love unconditionally? What does that look like? So, for example, breaks a family heirloom when I was 5 years old. Did my mom still love me? Yes. Did she kick me out? No. Was she upset? Yes. Did we cry and apologize? Yes. She still loved me. Okay. Walks in the house with messy feet. Do you just throw them to the curb? No. You can maybe help them clean it, have them clean it, but you just love them no matter what. What about spends more money than planned? How many of you are guilty of that? Do you still love yourself or do you beat yourself up? That'd be a good question to answer, right? Lost your temper and spoke harshly. Have you done that to your kids or to your neighbor or to whoever? Do you still love yourself? Okay, so that's what unconditional love means. It means that no matter what they do, you're going to love them. Now, I'm not saying to be a doormat, but you unconditionally love them. And that's like when I talk about having a brand new baby, it's like, okay, baby, we're not sleeping very much tonight, but don't worry, I'll take care of you. I'm not going to give up on you. I had some babies that didn't want to sleep for 2 years. And I was like, oh, I'll still keep taking care of you, baby. It's hard being a baby. Okay. I gave myself a lot of love for that. Okay. All right. So healing, you need to heal your relationship with food. So I like how this Julie de Rohan, she said, how did she say that? If you had a friend who lied to you, took your money, and let you down 95 to 99% of the time, would you still be friends with them? No, I don't think you would. If you would, that's a very abusive relationship. So this is what we've been doing with food for a really long time. So I created 4 steps that you can do to get to heal your relationship with food. And this also, like I said, is also related to advertisements. So the first one is having your own back. I'm going to give you a quick little analogy. When I was in France, I went with my mom. I'd lived there for 1.5 years as a missionary for my church. And then I went back with my mom a year later, and we rented a little car and we drove around Paris. And I don't know how many lanes is the roundabout in Paris, but it's insane in this Arc de Triomphe. And the thing when you drive in a roundabout with that many lanes is the only way that you don't crash is if you just always look ahead. You can't be looking behind you ever, because then you would crash in the first person, that person in front of you or beside you or whoever. So the only reason it works so well is that everyone is always just looking ahead of themselves. So no one is turning back. So in this analogy of having your own back, because I was always focused on where I was going, everyone else was focused on where they were going. So they knew if someone was getting in their way that they could move. It's the same thing for us. And how you get your own back is what you think of you is the most important. Okay. The next one is eat without guilt. So many of us eat with guilt, and there's two different ways of looking at guilt. One is denying yourself a feeling. So like when you eat ice cream, you're like, oh, this ice cream is so good, but it's so bad for me. Oh, I shouldn't be eating this. It's so bad for me. Okay. So you're denying yourself the feeling of enjoying the ice cream. Last Friday, we were doing errands, and we had bought ice cream at Costco, and I had planned for it. And the ice cream was melting in the car, and it was like the perfect softness on the top. And we went to a health food store to get these special drinks, and they had wooden spoons, and the wooden spoons were like, remember Dixie cups when you were a kid? And it was like, I was eating the wooden spoon with the ice cream, and it was so soft. And I was like, oh, this is so yummy. This is so amazing. I didn't have any guilt. It was awesome. I just enjoyed it. And then the other part of guilt is two opposing thoughts. So I really enjoy it, but it's not good for me. So then, of course, you feel guilt. So when you have guilt when you're eating, it's just going to add on extra stress for you. The cortisol is going to go up, and weight loss is all about the hormones. And so you're going to mess up your hormones. Okay. So the other one, A, is allow all the feelings. You're like, yes. So maybe if you were feeling a little bit of guilt. So I teach my clients to plan ahead. So if they're feeling a little guilt of eating that, they're like, oh yeah, I'm not allowed to judge myself. And if I can feel a little bit of guilt, I just process it. I just let it go. No problem. Okay. And the last one is to love yourself no matter what. You need to learn to love yourself unconditionally. You are your most important person. And the problem is, so many of us think that if we love everybody else and take care of everyone else ahead of ourselves, we're exhausted. And we don't get the best version of us. Okay? So the reason why this will work is because our bodies are intrinsically wired for food. So here we are, model 1.0. So when we were babies, we knew instinctively when we were full. We turned our head. When we were kids, we were taught rules, 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 rules. Eat everything on your plate. Kids are starving in China. Don't be ungrateful. I don't care. You're not hungry. Doesn't matter. This is what time we're eating. All those rules. Our parents weren't jerks. They didn't mean to do that on purpose, but that's just what they did. Okay. It is what it is. They had the best intentions. So the problem is we didn't learn to listen to ourselves. And now we need to learn to do that again. So we all have intrinsic ways to understand hunger. So we are already wired for that. So we have leptin. Leptin tells us when we are full. Ghrelin tells us when we're hungry. Insulin delivers all the energy to all the people and processes it. Okay. It's already set in us. But if we are denying ourselves all of it, then we're not going to have the benefit. So you come and work with me. I'll help you get all those hormones in check. And then you can start learning to trust yourself again. You're not always looking over your shoulder and so insecure about it, because you learn that what you think is the most important, and you learn to trust yourself. Now, the other thing is that's really important, as we're wired for this, is our thoughts are connected to our body. So anytime we have a thought, it releases a feeling, and a feeling then releases hormones in our body, or vibrations. Feelings are literally just vibrations. And so this is already happening. So if I said we're late, we could be like, oh, I'm late. right? Our heart starts to beat and all that things. It's like literally this happens all the time. We have a thought and we have chemicals are released in our body, like cortisol or dopamine or adrenaline. So, but we've been denying that because we think that an external thing is going to make us feel something differently. So all we need to do is just rewire or recalibrate, right? We just had a wire misfunction, that's all. And we just get to rewire it, or like I said, recalibrate, okay? So the necessary skills to do this is we need to watch our thoughts. We need to stop buffering. Buffering is taking an external thing and trying to make it come inside of us. It won't work. You know how they talk about, I'm just going to learn through osmosis? Yeah, it doesn't work. We need to be interactively learning things for them to be going in our head, okay? We need to be inside our body. We need to be paying attention inside our body, okay? And we need to start trusting ourselves. It's okay. You can do this. Now, results that are created when we do these skills, and what I was just talking about was real change, because change comes from the inside only. We have been trying to go on the other way, outside things making us feel internally different. It's not that way. It's you have to feel something inside, and then that will turn to the outside, okay? And in order to do that, there are 3 steps to building self-confidence or self-esteem. We need to, 1, start to trust ourselves. So start trusting yourself around food. My clients lose weight. I don't even know what they're eating. They learn to trust themselves. I teach them a process of diving on the scale and seeing what works for them. Okay. They also need to start believing in themselves. That's part of trust. So believing that they can be the person that can make the difference. It's not me as their coach that's going to give them the results. They create their own results. I help them. I show them the path. Like I love to say we're quilters, not quitters. The only reason that people don't get success in my program is because they quit on themselves. That's it. And it's because they don't trust themselves. This is it, because they don't believe that they can do it, because they've looked at all the evidence in the past that they can't be successful. But if we always look to the past to see if we're going to be successful, we would never do anything different. We would never even learn to tie shoes, for heaven's sakes. Because we're like, yeah, sorry, never tied shoes before. Just give me some Velcro or slide-ons, right? This has always been the thing. This is always how humans have evolved. That's why it's important to go through buffering, because we lean into the discomfort and then we can have change. So then we need to learn to trust ourselves, and then we need to process any emotion. We're like, yeah, bring me any emotion, no problem. It's like emotions are like the jelly beans from Harry Potter. They have all the different flavors. And some of them are like disgusting, like vomit. But you're like, if it's just a taste, it's going to go away. Any emotion, it's like just a vibration in my body, it'll just go away. I can just feel it though. I can just process it. I don't have to push against it. I don't have to buffer away from it. I can just feel it. Oh boy, that was disappointing. Woo, vomit. Or boogers or whatever. Like they have all those gross flavors. But you're like, I can just do it, because it means that I can have success. Because then what happens is your opinion of yourself changes. So when your opinion of yourself changes, you become that next version of you, of like, hey, I know how to shop for food. I know how to listen to my body. I know how to understand hunger. I know how to create my own happiness. I don't have to shop for it. I don't have to do that. I don't have to look a certain way for me to be happy. In fact, you can be 250 pounds and be happy. I promise you. And in fact, that is the way that you're going to get change. I lost 30 pounds and I thought, wow, I look amazing. I'm so proud of myself. That was in May. And by December of that year, I had lost 20 more pounds, and I wasn't even intending to. I was just so happy and just so in my like, wow, 170 pounds is amazing. I was 164 when I got married. I can't believe it. I've had 5 kids and da, da, da. And I just started using all this extra energy to like create a really fun life. So I quilted more and I taught more and I had a book and I was like doing Instagram stories and I started coaching people. It was super fun. Okay. And next thing I knew, I lost another 20 pounds. I was like, great. Okay. So that was our training for today. So thank you for joining me. So I am going to spend the next 10 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes just on my summertime body love. So this is your chance to ask me any questions about the pop-up group that's happening next week. It's going to be so much fun. So I'm curious. Here it is. This is my sewing machine manual. Okay. This is the instruction. So if anything happens, this is one of my sewing machines. Okay. You can put it in the chat. How many sewing machines do you all have? I have 3. And then a long arm. So I guess that's 4. Okay. It's always fun to see how many people have, how many different machines they have. Okay. So just like our instruction manual, right? So we buy the sewing machine. We're so excited. We picked it. We saved our money and we just loved it. And we got the instructions. And what did you do next? Did you take care of that sewing machine? Oh, 10. Awesome. So do you take care of that machine? Do you like dust it? Did you find 5 in a long arm? Awesome. Like if you have problems with it, do you just chuck it in the back of your car and like throw it away? Only 6. That's hilarious. Look at us. Well, those are all more than I have. So this summertime body love, we are going to talk about how do we take care of our body? How do we, what is the instruction manual that we have for our care? Have we been buying into what society has told us that we have to be in order to be happy? Okay. And one of the things that we're going to talk about is, where did all of those thoughts come from? And then we're going to dissect our own manual that we have created for what a body should look like. And we're really going to spend some time. This pop-up group, in the past, the last 2 pop-up groups, I have just been like a fire hydrant, just giving you so much information. This one is going to be very different. It's going to be more interactive. You will get your workbook on Saturday when the Facebook group opens. And we are going to be a lot more reflective because I want you to be able to leave the pop-up group with a plan in place. I want you to have permanent change. And in order to have permanent change, you need to go in and do some work. Okay. So just like if we had, a garage full of fabric with a lot of totes, instead of us just going in and reorganizing the totes, I'm going to teach you a process of going through those, working through like what we want to keep, why, and then get rid of, and how we want to do that. And then I'm going to help you to find a system that's going to help you take care of that stash way better and that sewing machine and create a whole new relationship with your stash. Okay. So you can expect that there will definitely be practical tools to help you to continue to lose weight. We are going to do a lot of discovery. So one of the problems we have is that we can lose weight. And you guys have done it. You've paid the programs, you've eaten the food, you've, done the weekly weigh-ins, all those things. It's not so much a problem of losing the weight. It's keeping it off and changing the focus of your brain. So one of the things that I can tell you in the summer body time love is the amount of energy and time you will have after will change. Because if you are hiding from your brain, and if you are like doing a lot of buffering, right? And the problem is the advertisers, they're really good at their job. It's a 364, what was it? $366.4 billion $422.8 billion. I don't know how I got 364. Anyways, $422.8 billion industry. They have been working on us to deplete our self-esteem, like your body is too wide, your face is, your nose is too big, this is too much, your da 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 da. And so they break you down to make you think that you aren't good enough. And then they now created a new problem you didn't even know you had. And now they're saying, we are the solution. Well, we're going to change that. We're changing that for you. Okay. We are going to be our own solution. Any questions? So it's $9. It starts on Monday. It's 10 a.m. Pacific, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. It's like $9 to join. And the Facebook group opens on Saturday. So then you can get your handout and print it off. If you're like me, it kind of feels nice to do that, get it ready and have it all ready for Monday morning for our class. There will be coaching on there. It will be interactive. So there will be times where I will have you do some writing on your own. It is face-to-face Zoom call. So you can ask questions, you can raise your hand. It is more personal because I'll be able to see your faces, you'll be able to see mine. You can definitely invite friends to enjoy. Sharing is caring, like we say at my house. So if you think that a friend of yours or friends of yours could really benefit from having this new awareness, because when we lose weight and put it back on again, we didn't solve the problem we had. Because we're using false pleasure, right? The food to create a different feeling for us. But we know that the food it doesn't solve our problem. It's just a false pleasure. So if you, this is something that you struggled with, or your friends, then please let them know. I also will be doing an interview with Lisa Bonjean, for those of you who know her, on tomorrow, Friday. And so that'll be fun. So if you aren't on her Stitch group, we're going to be doing it on YouTube, but we're doing it through her private Facebook group. So that is happening tomorrow at 11 a.m. Pacific. So that's 1 Central. So that is what's happening. Any other questions, ladies? It was super fun talking with you today. The link to buy, to register for the class will be in your email. Does everyone get my email? I think so. I think most of you, well, that's probably how you found it. But if you can't find the link for the Eventbrite, if you have any troubles at all, you can always email me at dara@darathomason.com. Okay. And then I can help you. And yeah, I would love to see you there. And it would be really fun. And I always appreciate you sharing me with your friends. This is how we're going to help more women have less stress and way more comfort in their life, is if we all tell. Like, it's so fun to see so many of you on here. And like, even Kathy, like, I haven't seen you in so long. Kathy was in my first Love Yourself Thin program, and then her work schedule changed. And it's just like, it really warms my heart to see all of you on here. I can see your names, and I'm so happy you're here.
And it really does show me like how committed you are to yourself. And so I do appreciate it when you share my message. And yeah, Dara's system works. Oh, so good, Kathy. Yeah, tell all your friends. Have them all come to our pop-up group. It's only $9. That's like less than what? You could buy 2 fat quarters. Well, I guess it depends on where you are. The last time I bought fat quarters, I think they were $4.50 each. So for the price of 2 fat quarters, you can come and it'll like change your life. All right, take care, everyone. Bye-bye.